The Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. Today is March 16th, 2023. It is 7:06 p.m. This meeting is taking place at the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library and online via www.facebook/BNC Television and www.PVRSDK12.org. I will call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call attendance, please?
Melissa Gary, present.
Jennifer Coffin, present.
Gretchen Kelton here.
Alan Genovese, present.
Karen.
Karen O'Neill here.
And Raina Dastu, Northfield, present. Great. So are there any citizens' comments? Seeing none, we will move on. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to the collective bargaining with the PVREA and PVASP if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, which I do.
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Second.
And roll call?
Melissa, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. All right. Shall we move? Okay.
Oh, I should bring my keys in case that's right.
Raina,
Do we have a
I
quorum?
assume I'm not going into this. Is that right?
Oh, yes, that's correct. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome back. We have concluded our executive session. I just wanted to take a moment. We have a new face at the table. So, Melissa, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Melissa Peliquin. I'm the PVASP Vice President. I'm a parent of a child at Bernardston, and also, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. And I also wanted to mention two changes in the agenda. Under business, the school year calendar, we're removing that one from the agenda just because it's not ready for a vote, and the school choice presentation is also being deferred. So.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The discussion, there was a set of minutes that was tabled last meeting, and it wasn't voted on.
Oh, not ready.
But I just wanted to clarify to people that it looked like it was misnumbered, but actually that's because the agenda went out of order, and those numbers correspond to the agenda items. But on the first set, the 13 was a mistake. It was supposed to be 3. But the second set, those are numbered according to the original agenda. And when I do the minutes, they're in a matrix, but the matrix doesn't show up, so I'll put the lines in it so it's more clear in the future.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
just for future.
Yep,
Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. So moving on, chair report. I guess, well, my report was just those changes in the agenda. So do you have anything to report?
An announcement, and this will go out in the district update. The Pioneer Valley Regional School is putting on their spring musical, Zombie Prom. It's an off-Broadway musical, very exciting. And one of the actors in it, Jonathan Bodenstein, has been in the musical for 6 years. So we will bid him a fond farewell.
Is he a senior?
To our stage. What's that?
Is he a senior?
He is.
Oh my God.
So the musical is on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday matinee. You may get tickets at the door. I will be there and looking forward to seeing it.
This weekend.
This weekend, yep.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So moving on, the FY24 preschool update and tuition. Welcome, Maren and Christy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maren Law. I'm the Early Childhood Coordinator for the district. It's nice to be here with you. I am here to give you an update and an overview of our preschool program. And then I have a few asks, a few school committee asks. So the first thing is a presentation on our preschool program. Here you can see, we have our preschoolers at Northfield jumping in some puddles. They are in rain suits, enjoying themselves outside. So the topics for tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the geographical context, enrollment trends, and program development, the emergent curriculum that is happening in our preschool programs, and an update on progress reports. So the first is the geographical context. So this is a map. As you can see, we have Bernardston and Northfield there, and the private childcare options that are available in a 20-mile radius of our school district. So you can see there aren't many options here in our immediate towns. The further south you go, the further east you go, you have more options. These are our enrollment trends for the past 5 years. So you can see in 2019, they were pretty high. Bernardston is in green and Northfield is in blue. In 2020, again, a bit high, and then the pandemic hit and we had a drastic decline in enrollment, but they are on the up and up again, which is really exciting. And then for the past 5 years, we have the percent of preschool students with IEPs. So in 2019, they were pretty high, but again, our enrollment was higher. And then we had a bit of a decline. And since our enrollment numbers have started to go up, we have also seen more students with IEPs. So currently, we have at BES 42 resident students eligible for preschool, and at Northfield, 39 resident students eligible for preschool. And that is a combination of census, street list information, sibling data, Debwood's wonderful playgroup. And then of those numbers, right now, I know that at Bernardston, we have 6 returning students to preschool for their second year. At Northfield, we'll have 13. I take into account early intervention numbers, and I know that I have 3 coming into Bernardston, but that's always subject to change. And currently I have 14 families at Bernardston that have filled out applications, and Northfield I have 6, but again, that's to change, and we just had an early ed open house tonight at Northfield, so I think we'll see that number at Northfield go up a bit more. Now we're going to dive into curriculum. So we have some wonderful teachers, preschool teachers, that are pushing this emergent, inclusive outdoor curriculum that is happening. So just to give you a snippet of what emergent curriculum is, in one of our preschool classrooms, they are exploring nocturnal animals. And now this came from the interest of the students, and the teacher is running with it. So as she says, as I start any unit, I listen for our next topic through their discussion and play. I kept hearing children talking about their superpowers and their ability to switch on their night vision. And then that led into this grand study of nocturnal animals. And they are exploring nocturnal animals in a variety of ways in their classroom. So through art and sensory, making poems. They have a wonderful classroom IA who made these, I don't know what you would call them, but you can turn them around and you can see what it looks like to be a nocturnal animal. And then they weave literacy in, and their dramatic play has been transformed. And we are using more natural resources inside our classrooms and outside of our classrooms. At Bernardston, we had parents jump on board, and they brought in wood cookies and lumber, and they've made outdoor kitchens and sinks. And you can see here, kids are creating patterns, and they are, in another picture I had, they were using stones to count. So again, it's weaving the indoor and the outdoor together. And so this year, we transformed our progress reports. So in years past, we had a narrative in which it was just written words. And this year, we have changed our format to add more pictures, to make it more personal, easier for to read for families. And the feedback has been great.
Sorry, wrong way.
That's okay. So the families, like all students in our district, they will get one in the winter, and then they'll get another in the spring.
Maren, I wonder if it might be helpful to read the kind of documentation of skills.
Sure.
Because the text is a little small. You want me to read it from here?
I can see it. Yeah, I can. Thanks. So approaches to learning, and then the teacher has marked that, and the documentation of skills. So the child says, "Let me help you." He offers to help a friend put on his gloves and perseveres with the challenging task until it is complete. He is always looking for ways to be helpful and notices when friends are in need. And then below, I made a telescope. He has been exploring and creating with our beautiful stuff materials each day. He taps into the curiosity and imagination to envision many uses for these found objects. And there are 2 preschool students collaborating on a snowman. Snow person. Thank you. So with that, transitioning to the memo. So there are 3 parts, sort of 3 asks. And the first is shifting our weekly rates to hourly. The second is increasing our tiers 2, 3, and 4. And that is in an effort to align with our neighboring districts. And then the third, that goes along with shifting our weekly to hourly, is to adjust our tuition policy regarding students with specialized services who have IEPs. Do you have any questions?
So I apologize, I didn't get to read this ahead of time on my computer. So clarify, so it says that the reason you want to change to hourly is for capturing services of special services that the kids are getting?
So right now, any child with an IEP comes tuition free, but there are levels of needs within that IEP and levels of amount of hours within the IEP. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, Christy.
I'm trying to sort out if they're there for a time and you're going to capture how many minutes or whatever they're getting. How does going hourly make it?
Yeah, so a student, say they receive speech services and they come and they receive their services 2 times 30, so they're getting an hour. So then we can take that hour and we can subtract that from their overall tuition.
Oh, okay. Got it. So it's prorated, and that you can separate out from the tuition, and that would make it easier. That makes sense. Thank you.
What is the current tuition rate? I didn't see it.
In the memo. So based on tiers, right now, this is the 5 days a week.
What page is that on?
3?
On page,
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
And in addition, so when you're reading this online, on page 3, second subheading tuition current and proposed, first line has a link to the full tuition table. Oh, and it's actually in your packets also.
so I'm just curious, so the federal or the states has 2 tiers?
Has 2.
And what's the rationale for us having 4 tiers?
So this predates me, but I think it's great to have. So we take that first tier and we split it into 2. That creates our first tier. So that way more families with a lower income can access.
So it just gives more of a sliding
Right,
scale.
gives more of a sliding scale.
So you can capture a greater portion of the community, I guess. Okay. Thank you.
Can families get support from other sources to have their child take advantage of?
Like a voucher.
Challenge, can you use the microphone, speak closer to the mic?
So I was trying to figure out if families can get additional support to help them to access this program, so it's affordable to them.
Right. So we do not offer anything else. We offer the sliding scale to help bring in a variety of families. So yes, we do not have a voucher system right now.
And I do have another question, which may or may not open up a can of worms or be controversial. So, given that there are so few options in our community for childcare, is there some thought to providing supplemental hours to the preschool hours? I guess what I guess to ask, as a substitute for daycare for parents who might need to work longer hours than the school day.
A before and after care for preschool. So we have explored that. When you bring in preschool students, 3 and 4, that brings in a whole other part of licensing and requirements. And it would be a long day for our preschool students, I think. We have a pretty robust program. And so it is something we're continuing to explore. Right now, we don't have that option.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a thought.
Yeah, it's a very good thought.
Now that we're
I know there
past
is a
that
need.
point in my family, but
Yeah.
I know we really relied on daycare when my children were younger. So,
And I'll add other neighboring districts have before and after. They have wrap care for their public preschool. So when we did live in the district, we school choiced our kids out of Pioneer's preschool because they didn't have the wrap care into another public preschool.
I know that there have been other districts that had it, and now they don't have it. So I think it ebbs and it flows. And
yeah, you have to staff it too.
right, yep,
It's a challenge. There are many challenges with it.
Right.
All right.
It probably says it in here. So what's the staff ratio? How many for staff to kids?
Right now, well, it depends, right? If a child has a 1-to-1 on their IEP or 1-to-2, we have 1 teacher and 2 classroom IEs. at least,
Okay.
in our classrooms right now.
Can I ask what the additional tuition will be allocated for?
Well, we are trying to continue to grow our program and to bring additional resources into our preschool program.
Currently, a portion of the preschool program, I'm sorry, I jumped in. Is that
That's okay, please.
A portion of the preschool program, because we are required to serve students with special needs in that age range, is paid for by a grant from the state that I assume comes from the federal government. It flows down through the state to us. The district does kick in money. So any funds that we get, any increase in tuition that we get, helps offset the cost of preschool. And my own personal druthers, as a single parent who had her first child, in a publicly funded program that was open, I'm not kidding, from like 7 to 5 or 7 to 6. Fully credentialed teachers. I could work. Yeah. I could work. So I lived that experience. Gosh, it would be great to provide something like that for our families up here, and that will take good long-term planning.
So opportunity for expansion in the program.
That would be wonderful. Yep. I don't think there's anyone that wouldn't like to see us expand. How we expand, is it kids in our current age range but providing more hours? Is it we go down into younger, Marin is completely right. Then we get into a totally different licensing situation. It's not DESE anymore. But these great conversations to have. I think it would be wonderful if the district were seen as from when your kid is little, bring us the babies and we keep the babies until they're ready to head off.
The grant that you were referring to is it's a relatively small grant because our program is it ebbs and flows based on our enrollment, and we use those funds typically to go towards special education services within that inclusive preschool program. So, like Marin said, growing the program, adding to the curriculum, increasing opportunities for the children is where those extra funds would go.
Does the facility where the kids are now, in terms of the licensing that's required, would we meet that, or would we have to do modifications to it in order to meet that?
For the before and after the extended day portion of it, you mean?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that question. I would imagine that it would, but I don't know.
I think
until we jump into it a little deeper, I would.
Okay. They have very specific guidelines as to.
Right.
Yeah.
I would imagine that they do.
Staffing ratios that you have to adhere to.
Right.
I wish there was a grant out there that we could use to fund that and make that available, because as you're saying, that need is there and it's so important, and it would really help to bring students and make that connection to this district at a very early age.
Right. And the state has done away with a lot of the grants for early education, and there was a grant at one point in time years ago where you could bring students in starting at 2.9 that fall under EEC that would have played into the after school hours, and that's not there anymore.
All right. So we do need to make consider making a few decisions. One is hourly rate. We have to converting from a daily to an hourly rate. Oh, okay.
Page 3, the bottom.
Okay. Page 3 is the motion.
All right. Thank you. Thought I saw it and I didn't see it. I guess there would be 3 separate actions that we would need to take.
Would you like a motion?
I would love a motion.
Okay. I make a motion to charge preschool tuition on or change the charge preschool tuition to an hourly basis instead of a daily basis for the school year of 2023-2024.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
So if the hourly rate, the current hourly rate is $1.04, the proposed rate that you have is $1. Okay.
For tier one.
For that tier.
For that tier.
And so that's how I would read, a slight increase as we're going down the page. And the adjustment is tied directly to, I don't want to say ability to pay, but something like that. Correct?
There's
Income.
income.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The
Income.
next page has the different tiers.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So the
Just help me understand that better. Thank you.
tier would be based on family income and size. Okay. All right. We ready to take a vote?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Oh, Karen O'Neill.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Thank you, Karen. And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. All right. And our next motion regarding tuition for the portions of the preschool day that do not include specialized services.
I make a motion to charge tuition for the portions of the preschool day that do not include the provision of specialized services for students with IEPs that reflect lower levels of need or less than 20% of this preschool day.
I will second that.
Thank you, Karen. Any further discussion on that point?
That's for FY 23-24.
Oh, yes.
As amended.
All right. Should we start the vote?
Melissa, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. And that passes unanimously. And our next motion to adjust the preschool tuition to reflect the changes detailed in the provided chart
So
for
moved.
the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. Any discussion?
Just that, so has this been vetted or shared with any of the people that may be affected by this? In other words, coming
The
to the committee, we're
families.
taking action on them, just sort of like a heads up or a conversation of here's what we're doing or suggesting and here's why. Has that happened, or is this going to be something they're reading tomorrow? The actions we've taken.
Specifically, no, but I have talked with many of the families to say that a change will most likely be coming into play, and that it's most likely that there will be an increase. Tier 4 hasn't been increased since I've been here, which is 3 years. So at least 2019, or maybe even earlier, was the last time it was increased.
It's always unfortunate when that happens because then it all piles
big,
up at
right.
the end to make up
Yeah.
for what didn't happen before.
Right, and so we hope to avoid that going forward.
Thank you. All right, shall we start the voting?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So on to policy review for policy BGB regarding policy adoption. This is a first reading, so discussion. We don't expect to take any action tonight.
So I can provide the committee with some background of BGE from the policy subcommittee. The first one that we're going to be discussing is about policy adoption and the process that we adopt policies and how we go about it. Since there are lots of policies that we will be needing to amend or review coming up, we also wanted to look at how do we do this. So right now it's set up as a 3-meeting protocol. And so in the memo, on the first page, it kind of drafts. These are not the exact words of what the policy says. But in meeting 1, the policy change, the amendment, or a new policy or removal would just be handed out and on the agenda. No discussion, just presented. Then the second meeting would be discussion. And then the third meeting would be a vote. And so some of these policies are really quick changes, and some of them will take a lot of time and will take lots of discussion. And so we wanted our policy to reflect actually how things could move more efficiently and effectively for us as a committee. So the proposed change, if you flip the page onto page 2, is breaking it down into a 2-step policy, where the first one would be a presentation and a discussion. So like we're doing today, we're explaining to you what the subcommittee did. There would be a response from the superintendent. There would be a report from any advisory committee. So if it had to do with a building and buildings and grounds got involved with it, they would also report out on that. And then there would be a committee discussion and directions for any redrafting. So the first is really the presentation and having a discussion. Preliminary, what's going on? What are the changes? Where do we go from here? The next meeting would then be an action item. Discussion, adoption, rejection, or a request for redrafting. And this is where us as a committee has time to hear from the community, hear from the union, from other members, and then we can decide whether we need more time to go back to redraft, whether we're ready to vote on it, but not have a standard 3-meeting, possible 3-month every time we need to make an adoption change. So it kind of consolidates everything. It does, as the policy continues to go, it does say amendments to the policy at the action stage will not require repetition of the sequence unless the committee so directs, and the committee may dispense with the above sequence to meet emergency situations. So if it's a quick change, something like we're changing shall to will or something like that, and it's more grammatical, as if any of you received the 6 pages, I believe, that we got from MASC of all the policy changes that need to be done, there's about 4 pages of just grammatical changes. That could be something that we could do in one meeting, and so forth. So that is policy, BGB policy adoption. I'll pause there if anyone has any questions or if anyone has something to add.
Karen?
I'd just like to say this is basically the policy we were following.
Correct.
Until we adopted the new policy manual.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. So this is reflective of how we have been doing it in practice. And now what we're actually doing is making our policies say what we actually do. So JJF is about student activity accounts. Patricia, do you want to?
Sure.
Yep. To that one.
So as on the first page, it says the 2 bullet points. Jordan worked with Cami Lamica, our fiscal overseer, on this, and their feeling was these revisions would better protect the district. particularly in the areas of segregation of duties and financial controls. So what are the proposed changes? I'm on page 2, bottom half of the page, making mention of the procedures for operations manual, identifying it by date, so we're really clear about which document we're talking about. In general, what the revisions are trying to do is make clear what happens with the student activity agency account. The language had required previously that the school committee vote every year to set a maximum allowable balance. This revision would change that and say, these are the maximum allowable balances. You could vote to change those, but you don't have to vote it every year. It clarifies that the district treasurer has these specific responsibilities. It restricts who may write checks. So previously it was the principal and designee, and in action, that was frequently the school administrative assistant, and thank goodness we've got fantastic school administrative assistants, so making super clear here, there's no problem. But our financial advisor said it would be better if it were the principal, superintendent, and the district treasurer who had the authority to write those checks. Let's see. There's some ministerial changes that, there's a should to a shall. Inactive accounts down at the bottom of page 3. So I want to make sure everyone understands this. When there is a student, so there are student activity accounts, and then there's the bigger student activity agency account, and that funnels money out. So all the money comes into that big one, and then it goes out. When a student activity, so let's say there was a scuba diving club in the salad days of the district. We had a scuba diving club. I'm making that up. But it hasn't been active for 8 years. But there's $630 left in that account. What happens to it? Right? So this change allows the superintendent and director of finance and operations to require that steps be taken, not just the principal. And you have to do stuff. It allows the superintendent and director of finance and operations to request these actions. Let's see. Oh, that number 3 that's crossed out, that is crossed out because it is redundant. That step is required earlier in the policy.
Quick question. I know for gifts that would be one thing, but do we have situations where people will write out a check and say, this check is for the sole purpose of supporting this club. I want to give $1,000 for this activity. I like the language you have so that it just doesn't sit there and now we can't do anything with it. So it's good that we have a policy on it. Would that create a problem if someone, or maybe that doesn't happen, where someone...
You have a policy in place that says, go ahead, Melissa.
No, you were on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
And at the same time.
The school committee accepts all cash gifts and makes decisions about how to use that money. So even if someone were to donate $50,000 to build a gazebo,
right,
that is so generous and so kind, and I bet the school committee might consider building a gazebo, but you have to decide to build the gazebo.
Right. And my thinking was specifically the student activity account. That would be a good example, but this is a little different because student activity accounts are student-driven, student agencies going into checks for those purposes. It's just something, we don't have to hold things up. It's just maybe a good question to ask.
You'll be seeing that coming up with policy, discussing gifts and money that is going to support the school.
No, I get that.
So that, but
I'm just focused on student activity.
But the reason why for student activities is because if a check was donated for a field trip, for a for a club to go on, right, through a student activity account, what this policy really also we needed to draft was on page 3, number 5, was the maximum balance of how much those student activities accounts can have, because we did not have something like that. And that was my fear, actually, was that we were going to be going over that 5,000
Right.
In those accounts. And that's where the agency account comes into play.
Right.
Where
Money's transferred out from the treasurer into there as it needs to be.
I'm going to check that, Alan.
Yeah.
So my understanding of your question is the school committee has to approve the receipt, acceptance of gifts, and the school committee chooses how to spend it. But if it is specifically targeted for a student activity, I don't know if that still holds, and so I will check that.
Yeah, it's,
I get that, Alan, though. So if someone's like, I want this to go to an art program, and then it's used for something else, is that okay? Right? If, for example, is that what you mean?
yeah, well, I liked her example of we're having a scuba diver and they were buying equipment and all this, and it was specifically given for that purpose, and now that purpose doesn't exist and the money's there. There's got to be, I'm just thinking maybe in the policy, if it's needs to be cleaned up to address something like that.
Well, the inactive accounts, that we're in better shape now with the inactive accounts.
Yeah.
So there's multiple examples floating around.
Right.
The inactive accounts, we're now in better shape.
Yeah.
The general, if we get a gift, you have to accept
Right.
it. You get to spend it how you wish.
Right.
For me, the remaining question is if it's specifically for a student activity.
Yeah, is that
I
an
wanna check that.
anomaly or something? That's all. Thank you.
And I guess to dovetail on that, like, so fundraising activities for a trip, like or a particular activity.
Uniforms or whatever.
that is on our soon to be
A radar screen.
agenda. For policy. I mean, it's a huge that we're aware of.
Okay. Not that we have an answer to that. Oh, yes, Claire, I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming that student activity is also each class account.
Yes.
So, and you're going to be talking about that in a policy meeting at some point? Is that
What do you mean? It's in
I guess-
this one, graduating class funds.
right? So I guess specifically what I'm thinking about is that one of the ultimate goal of each class is to have a class trip at the end of the year. And so now they have this bulk of money in an account, but they can't take that money with them.
Right.
Right. It's in here.
Oh,
It's in the policy.
It's on page 3.
so what can they do with that?
So it actually goes into graduating students' names. So the money,
Fourth paragraph from the
fourth paragraph. So we're on page 3 under graduating class funds. So should the class officers not request, well, actually it's in this second one. Once a class is graduated from high school,
I'm not actually talking about that. I'm talking about like when they need to use their funds on their class trip.
Right.
They don't have the ability to have a credit card or a debit card. The advisor does not have that ability. And can you make that into a policy? So I guess the example that I'm using is the class trip.
Right.
So in order for them to use the money, someone's going to have to charge on their credit card and then be reimbursed for any funds that are used during the class trip. So could each class have a credit card with maybe the school advisor, that class advisor, to be able to use that while they're on the trip?
I can bring that to Jordan.
Yeah, that's a great.
I know exactly what you're saying, and that's
Yeah, and I would advise at this point that no teacher would be absolutely not be charging on their personal credit card.
but the district can have.
And that the check should be written from the school, right? So you rent the hotel rooms.
But it's not just the hotel rooms. It's
I'm just using
like
that
dinner.
as a specific. Oh,
That's what I'm really talking about. That's when we go on the class trip, like we did last year to Rhode Island. We went out to breakfast. We went out to lunch. We went out.
I lived it. I know exactly
dinner.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And yes.
And I did, and I was reimbursed.
Correct. And I would say that.
But how
we
else?
probably shouldn't be doing that. And so so that's a procedure and not necessarily the policy. And so So that's procedure that would have to be figured out.
Okay.
I'm just stating that it, please don't use your own personal credit card, but that will be worked out procedure wise.
Sooner than later.
You want it done? Let's do this. Yeah.
By May?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Yep. And I think that also goes into policy when it also, many of these policies, as you know, overlap with reimbursement, staff reimbursement, and how to go through that. And that is very clear in policy too, that staff should never use personal with policy.
And there were a lot of things, that auditors had problems with. For example, if you use a personal credit card, you might get points, or you might get, cash back. You might get, there's all kinds of other benefits. Yeah. And so that's been an issue more so in recent years, because that's become a real motivation for people to get that particular credit card. So that's all part of trying to clean this up so that everyone is on good grounds.
So this is just the first reading of it, with explanation, background of both of the policies. And so this will be brought back up at the next meeting, pending anything else had to change for a vote.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. We do not have other business, or do we? Oh, we do.
I do.
Sorry.
I do.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Good.
Really happy business. What a great community in which we live. In this school, we have had an extraordinary number of student athletes sign up for spring sports. We ordered a round of new track and field uniforms. So many students have signed up that we're on order number 2. I think we're approaching 40 kids on the track and field. How cool is that? Awesome. 40 kids. I'm thinking I need to do a district update that is the sports edition. And maybe I'll do some coach profiles, athlete profiles. Just fantastic numbers. And thank you, Johnson Paving. Just want to say, I live on the road that Johnson Paving uses, and the guys are really nice because I walk and bike my dogs in the morning, and they are so nice about my dogs. They just really nice. So Johnson Paving is offering to donate, should the school committee accept the donation, a repaving of the long and triple jump runway. The value of this donation is $2,500. And Junior Johnson has some awfully funny stories to say about he did not attend here. Junior, someone's going to send this to you on Facebook. But apparently as a teenager, he hung out at Pioneer when perhaps he was supposed to be at his school in another state. So clearly Junior has some fond memories, and I know he's got family that's gone through. And he's got a grandchild, at least one grandchild over at NES. I guess my question is, would the school committee consider accepting this donation?
Did you say that was for the long jump and high jump? What did you say it was for?
The triple jump, long jump, that stretch of asphalt is dangerous.
Yeah. Is that still asphalt, though? I thought they were replacing that with cork.
I have not heard the word cork used yet in
that
conjunction with that runway.
It's a little spongy to run on.
Oh, that's the cinder track, and I'm probably I'm not gonna name anybody today, but before walking up to the meeting, I saw an email. Another local firm has offered to donate a rolling of the cinder track, but I need to get paperwork before I come to you about that.
So right now it's dangerous because it's cracked and bumpy and all that stuff. Okay,
yep.
Well, that's an improvement, even if it's bituminous.
So, go ahead.
I move that the committee accepts the gracious offer from Johnson Asphalt Paving to fix some of our track equipment.
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Take it away.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Ellen Genovese, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'll give a shout out to Johnson in the district update.
That's good. Any personnel updates?
No, because I think we did those the first
We did
meeting
those
of the
last
month.
time. Okay.
Along with the enrollment.
And any
Yeah.
other miscellaneous updates? No. Okay. All right. So our upcoming meetings, policy subcommittee will be meeting on Thursday, April 13th at 5:45. Our next regular school committee meeting will be Thursday, April 13th at 7 p.m. Oh, right. Yes, I was just going to say, there's the working group to talk about governance for the school committee. Will be meeting on this coming Saturday, March 18th from 9 to 12. And that's all I have. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Yes.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry,
Now, hold on. So,
just really quick, the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee is going to meet. We've had some responses as to a good day. I think we're just waiting for Karen.
No.
Okay.
That's a no.
All right.
No.
And did you want to share the
Yeah.
topics?
Um,
Or no? Okay.
I don't remember.
If you don't have an agenda
yes.
yet, you
So
have
we'll
to
be,
share.
yeah, you'll be discussing the SRO
yeah,
position.
discussing the SRO position.
Yeah. And was there another item?
Yes, there is the draft Director of Teaching and Learning job description, a draft job description for an environmental educator, and then a beginning exploration of the what does the committee need to learn in order to make a recommendation about the position of the school resource officer.
Great. Okay.
Is that date set?
It's not.
Okay.
We've yet to hear from all the members, or we have. And I have not checked my email.
Richard, so the last thing you just said about the resource officer is, do we have a contract that runs beyond this year? Was it a multi-year, or was it just to the end of this
No,
year?
It was 2 years.
It was a 2 year. So
Last year, this year.
Oh, so we're in the second year of that. Oh.
Go for it, Alan.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. Thank you, everyone. 8:55.
Aye.